Hello and welcome back to Time Under Tension. It's been a few weeks since I've hopped on here, and there's really no excuse other than the one, right? The one excuse. It really never matters what the excuse is. It's just the fact that we're willing to procrastinate or delay the execution of the thing that we know we need to do for some other reason. And I think it's so common that we make decisions in this way and write them off as excuses or reasons for not doing what we want to do, when truly the root of that is identifying the fact that in every moment, with the thoughts we choose to follow, with the actions we choose to take, with the relationships we choose to engage in, with the words that we choose to speak, we are constantly making decisions. We are constantly choosing. We are constantly shaping and co-creating our lives. And sometimes it feels easier to assume a role as an passive participant in this journey, to say, well, this is the circumstance in life right now, and so this is the capacity with which I can show up. And that's it. We kind of place that ceiling on ourselves and say, look, I've hit my limit for what I have, for the resources that I have, for the time that I have, and these are my circumstances. And at times we can operate in that way where we say, woe is me, these are the circumstances, and so this is all I can do. Kind of this like little petty humble offering in a like throwing our hands up, this is all I can do sort of way. The other end of that is basically the same thing, but we're saying, I'm giving everything that I have to this, and this is all I have to give. And it is me striving and I'm working so hard, but the world is against me. So both are the two sides of the same coin, where we're saying, this is the capacity, this is the limit, this is the ceiling. I've given all I have to give, and all I can do is forge on with the things that I've been given. And it's hard to paint this as just black and white, because in a sense there is truth to that every day we want to show up and do the best we can with the resources that we've been given. But the mindset can be either one of scarcity or abundance. And those words are so overused in the mental health, like spiritual wellness sphere, that it can be really difficult to glean like true meaning from them. But it is really either looking at the world from this idea of like, this is all I have, so I'm just scraping by, or I have everything I need, and so I'm thriving into that. And when we choose the latter, what comes with that, although it is a much more full life, because we're constantly looking for the more that we're being given and stepping into that, it's a heavier life at times because it comes with more responsibility. When we say, I will always do the best I can with what I have and be excellent in the callings to which I've been called in this current stage of my life, you understand that as you're given more responsibility, you have to step up to that challenge. And so you can no longer operate in that, like, well, this is all I have and this is all I've been given, and so this is all I can do with it. Instead, we're saying, okay, this is all that I've been given, more as a responsibility. So let me do everything I can with it, with ultimate reverence and respect, and with a sense of excellence, and holding myself to a high standard, so that when I am entrusted with more, I will also rise up with excellence to that task as well, knowing that we, in a sense, have to prove ourselves, have to show, I will show up with this character, I will operate out of this value system, even in this maybe what others would deem, or even I deem, a small or insignificant arena. I will treat it with significance and say, I'm showing up as my highest self in this arena, so that when I'm called to more, I will continue to show up with continuity at that level of execution. This is a difficult thing to conceptualize because we want that. I think naturally we want to thrive. We want to feel that we're doing our best. We want to be proud of what we're doing. But in order to achieve that, we have to also face the fact that there are times when we won't be. There are times when we're going to make decisions out of the wrong value system, when we're going to fall short of our highest level of execution, when we're not going to operate at the level of excellence that we would like to hold ourselves to. And in that, we may disappoint ourselves. And it's also facing the fact that there are times where you can disappoint yourself, but not be so belittled by that, that you prevent yourself from continuing to show up. There's a lot of fear in assuming a higher level of responsibility and understanding that you have to take responsibility for the decisions that you're making in your life. That you have to understand that every time you make a choice, you're making it out of a certain value system, and it's on you to reflect on whether or not that value system is the one that you really want to be operating out of. If you decide to not go work out because you're saving money on gas and you'd rather not go drive to the gym today, the value system out of which you're choosing to operate is the one that's saying, like, the most important thing to me right now is saving money. And that's fine. But you have to understand that that is the choice. And then the second choice that could come with that particular example would be, well, if I also do value being active, will I then work out at home? And if you say, well, no, I prefer to work out at the gym. And so since I'm not going to the gym today, I'm not going to go work out. You're going to have to deal with the discrepancy between what you say is important, that is working out, being active, and what you're actually choosing is important, which is saving money and also not meeting yourself in the middle with that other goal and saying, okay, well, if I'm going to save money, then I also have to find a way to be active at home. And getting real with yourself is uncomfortable because the way we like to address it is to say, well, look, I did something really virtuous and I chose to stay home and save money. But then we have to kind of deal with that guilt of, well, I also didn't show up in another commitment that I made to myself. And we're constantly making multiple commitments to ourselves. And the ones that fall on the back burner tend to elicit the most shame. Shame can be very stagnating. So if you are constantly choosing to act out of the value system of like, well, saving money is the most important thing to me. And then the cost of that is that you put your health on the back burner. You're going to likely experience a lot of shame if you also state that you have the belief system that your health is important, but it is something that continues to fall on the back burner. And so if you want to move from that scarcity of like, well, it's either or, I can either be financially healthy or I can be really healthy. Like I could, be financially thrifty and shop at Walmart and not buy organic things or whatever that looks like for you. Or I can be really healthy and eat organic, but spend more on that and have to get lab work, and that's really expensive. And so I'm caught between either or, and I can either be one or be the other. Whereas that mindset of abundance is saying, okay, I realize that I value multiple things. And so my responsibility is to find that middle ground where I can balance my values, where I can say, I can be financially healthy and be healthy in my body. And here's where that middle ground is, not to compromise either, but to find a healthy middle ground with both. So both values can be honored. And that balance in this example, if we continue it, would be to say, okay, well, I'm not going to spend as much money on gas, so I'm going to bike to the gym today. That's an example. Or I'm not going to be spending money on gas and spending money on a gym membership. And so my compromise with myself or my middle ground with myself is to say that I will do home workouts. Now, I understand that that in and of itself will take a higher level of accountability because I'm not going to the gym. So here's how I'm going to implement a plan to make sure that I meet my financial goal and I meet my fitness goal. And that's what this looks like realistically in my life. And that's taking responsibility. If you want to live that life of abundance where you can live in the promise of all the things that you feel are important, then you have to take responsibility for understanding that there's going to be middle ground between values where you have to find a way to meet both, and that you have to continually reflect and make sure that you're checking in with yourself so that you are holding yourself and maintaining that standard of excellence that you want to in all those areas. If you say something is important to you, does your day-to-day life actually reflect that belief system? And if it doesn't, then it's not actually your operating value system. It may be an ideal, but it's not actually what you're operating out of. And another way that we see this paradigm is if you read any kind of motivational books that are typically centered around like fitness or some kind of achievement in the physical world, they will give examples of like acting as if you are that person. Like, what would a runner do? Well, a runner would have their shoes beside their bed. A runner would be ready to go the night before. A runner would have their route mapped out ahead of time. A runner would get up every day at 6 and run. And you start identifying with that identity, even if you haven't lived as that person up until this point, because you're trying to embody this value system. So when you think about creating a value system, you're starting with what's important to me. I'm saying that my goals are to start running, to save money, to feel more energized, to be more patient with people in my life. Then what does that look like tangibly in your life? And realizing that there might be a point where you feel the tendency to compromise one in favor of the other. And that's where you have to take responsibility again for creating that middle ground, where if you want to achieve all four of these things, then how do those overlap in a healthy and balanced way in your life? Where when you move through your day, embodying those values, saying, I'm showing up as if I were already a runner, as if I am a patient person, as if I am financially thrifty, as if I am energized. Do you feel like you're embodying that on a day-to-day basis? And if you find yourself making excuses for why one is constantly falling off, then that's a key that you're not taking responsibility for finding that middle ground agreement with yourself between two different body systems. This is a really challenging process, but it's the key to unlocking a level of abundance and feeling that constant forward momentum towards what's important to you, and not feeling like you're a victim and being stuck and being stuck is the actual phrase, because it's usually feeling like it's happening to us. We're being stuck in a certain spot because we feel like we can't change anything around us. But when we take responsibility, we open up that level of abundance where we say, okay, I can, and I already have all the resources I need to make progress towards these goals. Now, I may not be a runner in that I can spend 4 hours a day training for a marathon right now, because that would be at the cost of all of the other things that I value. But if I know my value systems, the things that are important to me in this life, here are my middle ground agreements that are going to be in the center of all of those value systems where I can meet those desires and pursue those goals. And it doesn't feel like anyone is particularly compromised. So if you want to make progress and you feel like you continually get stuck, I would encourage you to step back and start to identify the things, the commitments that start falling off. Ask yourself, does this fall off because I've overcommitted to something in this area? I've said, well, I want to be a runner. And so my starting goal is trying to run 4 hours a day, which is no longer balanced with the value of spending time with my family. And so I need to back that goal down to something that's more manageable that allows me to embody all of my other values. Or is it a place where I'm making an excuse and saying, well, because this other thing is a more important value to me, this one continuously falls off. This can be and is a lifelong ongoing process. And it's one that is stunted by frustration and shame and irritation at ourselves. So if you find yourself falling into those emotional states, being able to stop and step back and say, okay, I feel myself getting frustrated. That's a key. That something that's important to me is not being met, that I'm not showing up at the level that I want to in this life, that I broke a commitment to myself. Like there's a valid reason for this frustration, but now let me come back to that middle ground agreement and say, okay, in order to address this and prevent this frustration, what would be an honorable goal, or what would be a better agreement with myself in order to make sure that I'm honoring all the things that I say that I value, so that I'm truly aligned between what I say I believe and how I'm living my day-to-day life. And if you aren't sure where to start on this process, I highly recommend working with a coach who can not only help you with the physical execution of the goal, i.e., a training program, a nutrition program, but someone who also helps you find that balance where you can identify what's important to you and start to move towards it at a sustainable pace and in a way that allows you to show up and live in alignment with the other things that you value in your life as well. So looking at your life and your personhood as a whole and moving forward in a way that's truly satisfying. That's what I love to do with people. You know, I love building training programs and nutrition programs, and that's my jam. But I know that that doesn't change everything for someone. You could have a perfect program, but if it doesn't align with the other things that you value in your life or the amount of time that you have to commit to the goal, it's only going to be sustainable for a short amount of time. And so if you're interested in working with someone who can really help you dial this process in, please reach out to me. You can email me in the email below or DM me through my Instagram or comment below. I'd be happy to connect with you on a call and just kind of talk to you about your goals and see if it would be a good fit. Because this is my passion and it's been an ongoing process for myself. And I love helping others tap into this so you can continue to progress towards what's important to you long term and not ever feel that sense of compromise that you're losing sight of what's important, but instead continually developing the self-belief, the confidence, and the alignment to live an abundant life, one that's aligned with your goals and one that allows you to continue moving towards them consistently for the rest of your life. Thank you guys so much for watching and or listening. Please remember to hit that like button or subscribe. You can watch this on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple iTunes. I'll see you guys next time on Time Under Tension.